Welcome to Joyful Purpose, a podcast where we share faith-filled stories of purpose, joy, and resilience. I'm your host, Sheila Hara, and together we'll explore how faith shapes our lives, careers, and the challenges we navigate. Each episode, we sit down with incredible guests who are walking in faith, pursuing their calling, and making an impact. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Aleena. Aleena holds BS in physics and a Master's of Science in Bioengineering. She spent 8 years working in medical AI software engineering before making the decision to become a stay-at-home mom. While she thoroughly enjoyed her career, Aleena finds even greater fulfillment in being at home with her 3 children. She describes motherhood as both challenging and rewarding, pushing her in ways she never expected. In addition to parenting, Aleena runs a home bakery business, maintains a garden, and stays actively involved in her thriving church community. She is grateful for the opportunity to channel her energy towards her family and the home while still pursuing her passions and building meaningful connections. Aleena and I met because our children go to the same school, and I've been in awe of her ever since. She has this remarkable quiet strength and an ambitious spirit, approaching everything she does with grace and purpose. What truly inspires me is how every effort she makes is done unto the Lord, reflecting her deep faith and commitment to serving God in all aspects of her life. I'm so grateful to know her, and I can't wait for you to hear her story on Joyful Purpose. Hi, Aleena. How are you doing tonight?
Hi, doing great. Thank you.
Thank you for making this happen. I want to jump in straight into your faith story. Faith is such a personal journey, and everyone's path to Christ is different. Can you share how you first came to faith?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad we could do it. It's I always have to think for a minute about how I actually came to faith, because I did grow up in a home where we went to church every week, or most weeks. But I honestly don't know if I would say it was like a Christian home. Like maybe in my younger years, the home was kind of more characterized by Christian behaviors and stuff, but that kind of changed just like as we were growing up. So we sort of stayed involved in church for most of my childhood, but I was for sure not a believer. I just kind of went to church just because it's what we did as a family, and so faith in Jesus in particular really didn't become real to me until college. And I never doubted the existence of God, but I wouldn't say that I actually believed that Jesus was Lord over my life, and that I should actually take it seriously until my freshman year of college. So that was after some rebellious teenage times. And I had a friend that I met in college who kind of just challenged me and just spoke very bluntly to me, to encourage me to if you're going to call yourself a Christian, you should take it seriously, and you should find a church, and you should go, and you should do all the things that Christians ought to do. And that's really what kind of made me feel interested in Christianity again, and kind of start caring about theology and actually what do I believe, and can I explain this, and all of those things. So I suppose there was one moment where I remember wanting to take it more seriously, but then it was kind of a process after that. So yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. As Christians, we often go through struggles with our journey. So do you have any struggles or turning points in your faith journey?
Yes. Well, and, again, I guess I never doubted the existence of God, or the fact that, that all that was real. But my teenage years were definitely real up and down in terms of how, I don't know, just where I wanted to go with my life. I was kind of leaning into the rebellion, and then I'd kind of try to do better and sort of go back and forth. So that was for sure a struggle. And that just feels it was a long time ago, but also feels like a whole different lifetime, So other struggles would have been shortly after I got married, my parents got divorced, and that was just a hard time for my immediate family. So that would have been a point where we kind of had to I don't know, just work through a lot of feelings and a lot of things and kind of, ask ourselves like where or what does God say, I guess, about all these relationships and, how to handle conflict and all that stuff. And then I don't know that I have many more like real big struggles or turning points, other than just sort of the big events in life, like getting married and then having children. And having children is for sure the one that challenged me the most, kind of challenge like, where does my identity lie? Does it lie in like the work that I do, or am I really rooted in Christ and finding my purpose there and in the things that he has for me, rather than, all the things that I think are worthwhile. So that's probably the biggest one, and the most ongoing, right? Because like you keep parenting, and then there's more kids and all that stuff. So.
Absolutely. So I want to double click on, something you said, finding your identity in, after having kids, choosing between work and kids, or, being a parent. Was that an easy choice for you? How did you make that choice? Any learnings from that choice?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So I worked full time up until our third child was born. So that was about, I guess it was like 5 years of full time work, and then I went down to part time after that, and kept working until just this past summer, actually in 2024. But so anyway, the years of working full time, I can say that like I loved my job a lot, and that was the main reason that I wanted to keep working. But it wasn't just, oh, I like this work, and so I want to do it. I was really, at least in the beginning, I was really fighting against, I don't know, certain things that came with motherhood. I think I had a really hard time after our first kiddo was born, with just like postpartum depression and stuff. And so there was kind of this, I guess that's why I use the word identity. There was like this identity war of like, oh, I want to just go back to work and have everything be how it used to be. But I also have all these new responsibilities and this new kind of phase of life to figure out as a mom. And so kind of struggled with that for a while. And then we sort of found a better rhythm, and, kind of got into a rhythm that worked for having 2 kids. And then the third one came, and that was when I really started to feel like, if I keep working to this level and in this very mentally demanding field, then I felt like I couldn't do a job at either one. I felt like I was kind of doing a halfway good job at work and only a halfway good job at home too. And so that just got me thinking a little harder about, where do I want to put my time, and how do I want to try to honor the Lord and my family. And I have, a lot of respect for my old boss too, where I didn't want to do a bad job for him. So all of that was just kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better term, kind of turning in my head for a while. And then once our third kiddo was born, we needed to move, and there was sort of a lot of things just converging at the same time after COVID. So it was sort of like a time where there was a lot of change coming anyway for our family. And my husband and I talked and said, this would be the time to not work full time and really just put my energy into the home and into our kids. And thankfully, the Lord really blessed me with just like an enjoyment of all those things too. Like I started to learn how to bake and just do all these things that were just more focused on like homemaking, and I've just been having a lot of fun with it. So we just just kind of made that decision now almost 4 years ago, and it's been really great.
Thank you for sharing. I think one of the things that I just hear throughout your faith journey is, I feel there was a struggle between what God has planned for you and what you wanted to do. And in the end, God prevailed, and he basically blessed you because you chose the path you chose. It's an incredible story. Thank you for sharing. And I also wanted to double click on something else you said, which is, postpartum depression. I think it's very common for women. 2 out of 3 women have it. usually after their first child. And it's often swept under the rug because you either blame the hormones or you either blame the new dynamic that's going on at home, and you just don't really take care of yourself. So I'm glad that you've taken care of yourself and come out on the other side, hopefully, and with God through all of this. So thank you for sharing. So I wanted to ask, these big moments are so memorable, but what about the little moments? What happens in everyday life, right? How do you keep your faith strong on a daily basis, even during all of these challenges?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because that's always the thing is like, okay, we have the big picture, but what do we actually do, tomorrow or whatever, or today? I can't say that I've come up with any of this on my own, but there's a couple of books that I've read that I think have given a lot of really practical tips for just handling life with little kids, which is very loud and stressful and chaotic, and there's like so many things going on. I always say my day is like a roller coaster. Like, you really don't know what is coming next sometimes. But in terms of keeping my faith strong on a daily basis, really, like the number one thing, and this will just sound like the easiest cop-out answer, but it's just to read my Bible. And I have more gravitated towards listening to my audio Bible, because I learn a little bit better that way, but also then I'm guaranteed to like not make the excuse. Well, I shouldn't say guaranteed. There's still some days I don't get around to it, but I'm more likely to succeed if I just pop it in my headphones and I, listen to it while I make my coffee and stuff like that, because it's very challenging to sit down and have a quiet time, like that. That's just not something that really happens very often. So I try to just listen to it. And then a couple other practical tips that maybe other moms of littles will find helpful. You know how sometimes there will be like a different thing going wrong with each child, and it's just like it all stacks on top of each other and it's just totally crazy. One tip for that is I like to look at the clock or just make a mental note in my head that like in 20 minutes, this probably all will be done. Like all of this will be over. We will have moved on to the next thing. And I just kind of like breathe and remember it's going to be fine. Like in the grand scheme, this is a very short-lived, very stressful moment, but like we can try to get through it and try to laugh, or something. And that kind of helps to ground me into not thinking like, oh, my world's ending right now because everyone's freaking out. So I don't know, that's one tip. And then another one that I need to be better at actually like saying out loud, but I've heard someone recommend doing this, like when you are at one of those points in your day, maybe it's not even like a super stressful moment, but you just feel yourself kind of, needing the Lord. It's just to say out loud, like, Lord, please bless the work that I'm trying to do here, and just say it, and then look around for like the next thing that you need to do and just kind of go do it. And sometimes just speaking those words out loud, I think really helps us to just remember like, oh, this is why I'm doing this, because it's not really for me. It's for the Lord. So those are
awesome.
Those are some things that I find helpful.
Such practical tips, Aleena. Thank you so much for sharing. I think, as a mom of three myself, I think, those moments when everything just stacks up on top of each other, you're like, okay, this too shall pass, and just take a deep breath and keep going. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Are there any specific moments when your faith helped you make a tough decision or give you peace?
Yes, for sure. These are always like harder for me to think of specific examples, but I know that there's been so many moments in general in motherhood, or just in life. I think I tend to be a bit on the anxious side of things, and so the giving me peace thing, that's always something I'm like wanting more of, is just, Lord, please calm my mind down. And so there's just a lot of moments where I have to pray that prayer and force myself to kind of change the channel in my own head, like if there's, I don't know, an upcoming event that is stressful, or a lot of things to figure out for the kids, or even just my own imagination getting the better of me when I don't know, if we go to do a new thing with the kids and I'm worried about them getting hurt or something that feels kind of silly, but those things can really kind of, I don't know, just create more of an air of anxiety than I want to have. And like asking the Lord to really like take that and to help me put my mind in a better place. So I guess I can't think of like a specific example from recently, but I know that happens probably like every 2 or 3 days. So there you go.
Yeah, especially having kids will definitely, keep that happening all the time for us. Mm-hmm. So I would like to jump into a Would You Rather segment. So this is supposed to be fun. Think of the first thing that comes to mind and say it. No overthinking on this one. Okay? Okay. Would you rather be known for your wisdom like Deborah or your faith like Mary?
Probably Mary. Yeah.
Why?
I think she didn't ask any questions or anything. She just said, "Okay, Lord, I'll do it." And I mean, I would love to have wisdom too, but I think that I don't know, the being faithful like Mary seems to, I think that would be more of a struggle for me. So yeah.
Thank you. Okay, would you rather live in a time of biblical miracles or see modern day revival firsthand?
Oh, for sure, biblical miracles. I have like imagined several of these before and tried to wrap my head around how on earth this would look or how it would work. And I just think that it would blow my mind over and over again. Like there's all the big ones, parting of the Red Sea. Maybe this is a little dark, I don't know, but I would love to see the plagues. Like I wouldn't enjoy watching it, but I just like cannot fathom how many frogs and all of those things. Like it's just really, really crazy and would just be really cool to see it happen firsthand. The flood, like I'm thinking of all the really, really catastrophic ones, but I think it's hard to imagine anything like that. Like I've never seen a natural disaster really beyond, I don't know, like the wreckage after a forest fire or something, which is for sure devastating, but it's not in the same category, and so I have no concept of what that would look like in real life. So it'd be kind of fun to
Awesome.
see,
or
I
even
guess.
the simple fact of, how Jesus just multiplied the 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes, right? He just kept giving it.
Yeah.
Like, how did that happen? I just don't know. Like, what happened? Did the people, distributing it, did they think differently? Like, what were they feeling? I have no idea.
I know. Yeah, I love that one. That's a good one. My physics brain wonders, like, did you just create something out of nothing?
Exactly.
Or what did you, what was
exactly. Exactly. Okay. So would you rather always have a perfectly baked sourdough loaf every time, but never be able to experiment with new recipes, or be able to try endless new sourdough variations, but never have a guarantee that they turn out just right?
Oh, for sure the second one. Try endless variations. That's like my style anyway. I love to experiment with food specifically. So yes, I would try all of the weird things, and as long as it doesn't turn out terrible and it's edible, I will be happy, because I just like to try new flavors. So yeah.
Awesome. Would you rather have a spa day with your best friends or a quiet retreat alone with God?
Let's see. That one is harder. I like never go to the spa, but I would probably pick the spa because I never go, and so it sounds nice to have a massage and a pedicure and all that. So
I don't think many of us moms go to the spa anymore.
Right. Yeah. So I should take that as a treat, because I could probably get quiet time easier than I could get a spa day. So
Absolutely. Okay. Would you rather have a lifetime of family game nights or a lifetime of uninterrupted morning quiet time? I know in this season, the quiet times are hard to come, but given a choice, what would you choose?
True. No, I would still pick the game nights though, because that's the kind of thing that you'll look back and remember, and you won't always be able to have those, but uninterrupted morning time will come one day, so I can wait for that.
Awesome. Would you rather have the gift of prophecy or the gift of healing?
I would say healing. Yep. I would love to be able to make people feel better. It would have been nice to heal myself a few times, that would be great. So, I mean, it's just like such a practical way to help people would be to be able to heal them. So, yeah.
Awesome. That went by fast. So let's go into the next segment. This is where we would love to leave our listeners with something they can reflect on. So if there's one piece of advice you'd give someone struggling to find their purpose in faith, or even struggling to find their faith, what would that be?
Advice for someone struggling to find their purpose in faith. We were talking about this kind of question in our women's Bible study recently, and our pastor's wife who's leading the study, I'm probably going to explain it slightly differently than she did, but I thought she had a really good insight into this, which is, I feel like so often I don't know if it's because we have so many options available to us, like just in our modern, American life, but so often I think we wonder, like, what is the will of God for my life? What should I do? There's all these things that I could be doing. And is one necessarily like better than the other? And I think a lot of times we are trying to choose between several things that are like all good and would all glorify God, but we don't know, which is the best one. Maybe other people don't struggle with that the same way, but I for sure felt that kind of pull in multiple good directions at the same time before, and one thing that she said about it is, she said, you don't have to try to figure out what the will of God is, like in all these little nitty-gritty details. Like if you are honestly trying to honor him with your work and you're submitting to the word, then like you are in the will of God. You are doing those, you are doing things that are in the will of God. And so go do basically whatever you want that is in that category. Like you can't, obviously don't go do something that's totally unbiblical, but if you're honestly trying to honor him and you're submitting to the word and being obedient, then just go do what you want and see if the Lord blesses it. And for some reason that just like resonates really well with me, because it kind of removes some of that mental load of like, oh, I have to figure out what is God's ideal for me. And it's like, what do you want to do next? Does it honor the Lord? Go ahead and do it and see if it works out, see if he blesses that more, or if he doesn't, then I guess, let's try something else and go do the other thing that you want to do. So yeah, I don't know. I think finding your purpose in faith is like, it doesn't have to be just one thing. It really can just be like doing the next thing that can honor the Lord, and then just see what he does with it, since it's his work anyway. But yeah.
Thank you for that. I think one of the things that we often forget is the Bible is filled with promises, right? I think I was recently reading there are about 7,000 plus promises in the Bible for us. And God gives us all of those promises. And most importantly, I think what you were exactly saying, as long as we're in that realm of glorifying God, we can make the plans and he will bless the path, right? Jeremiah 29:11, that's what it says, right? He will bless the path. So, don't worry about the little details. He's already got that. He already knows the end, right? So don't worry about that. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. What about a Bible verse that has been an anchor for you in tough times?
Yeah, I do. I have one for that, and it's really like the end of the verse that I enjoy the most. And in the end of Ecclesiastes 5, it talks about how, Ecclesiastes is full of words about like, basically don't try to just don't try to rely on your riches and your power and all that stuff. So I'm kind of like moving past some of that, but it basically says, if the Lord has given you things and blessed you with them and basically entrusted all these things for you to do with your life, use your riches for his good, do all these things, whatever. basically don't even cling on to those things, because then the end of the verse says, for he will not much remember the days of his life, because God keeps him occupied with joy in his heart. And what I take out of that, and I just pardon my probably sort of stumbly explanation, but what I take out of that is that, like, God gives us so many awesome things in life and really hard things to deal with. All of those things are for our good and are for his glory, and we have to go through them, and we have to do things with them. But in the end, really, it is the Lord keeping us occupied with joy in our heart that is going to get us through and get us to the end, and make all of that worth it anyway. So much so that we might not even much remember the days of our life, because, like, the joy of the Lord is just so much greater than all of that. And so, for a long time, I've kind of contemplated what that all means, and how really just having joy in whatever the Lord sets before us is so much bigger than anything that we are trying to figure out how to deal with, or how to move on from, all that stuff, because the Lord is just full of, like, blessing and joy and peace beyond what we can even imagine. And so yeah, I don't know, that's just how I think of that verse, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. How about one simple thing that our listeners can do this week to grow in their faith?
Well, I hate to go back to my earlier answer, but I will, which is to read your Bible or listen to it, which counts as reading, and trust that the Lord will use it for his purposes. And since that's, like, the easy answer, because, like, we all know we should do that, right? Let's see, another one simple thing someone can do to grow their faith. Well, this is something that I want to get better at, which is just remembering to pray for other people. I will so often say that I'm going to pray for someone, and then, if I don't, like, sit down and do it right then, or maybe not even sit down, but if I don't actually stop and do it right then, it's probably not going to happen unless I happen to remember it later, which just really is hard to do. So that's something I want to be better about, is just following through on my plans to pray for other people, and for, my kids and my husband and all of that. So maybe that's one simple thing we can all try.
That's awesome. Thank you. At our house, we have every night, we actually have, this concept of a digital prayer request. So it's something like that, but it's actually physical cards. So we have names of all of our friends and families on cards, and the kids get to pick a card, and we pray for that family every night. Every night it's a different family, different friend. And then if they have other requests of, like, very often my daughter will say, oh, this one fell today and this one got hurt today, so can you pray for them, right? So we will give them that opportunity at the end of the day. But, it's so right, out of sight, out of mind. You say you pray for them, and then you just forget about it, and the day just passes you by, and then on the next day, you're messaging them, asking them how they are, but you've not prayed for them yet, But yeah, that happens to me too. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, now we're going to get into our last and final segment, which is the rapid fire segment. This is, again, no thinking or no overthinking. You can think a little bit, but no overthinking, and, straight to the answer. What's your favorite Bible verse for encouragement?
Oh, for encouragement. I'm going to forget the actual reference, because I always do that. But the verse about having a peace that surpasses all understanding, with the peace thing. But yeah, gosh, what is that? I should have just written it down. But I really love that verse, and just it's such a good reminder to trust that the Lord is in charge, and that I am not, and that He delivers the peace that He promises. So,
for those that are listening, it's Philippians 4:7.
Thank you. That's
awesome.
Yeah, I need to just lock that away.
What's one worship song that always lifts your spirit?
I really do love It Is Well With My Soul. It's just a great classic hymn. Yeah.
Absolutely. Which woman in the Bible do you relate to most?
Probably Eve, and I don't think I could have done any better than her. So I probably just relate to the feeling of like, oh, I don't know, things were good, and then you did something wrong, and I'm like laughing at myself saying that, but that's the honest answer. So there you go.
Awesome. Okay. What's your favorite thing to bake from scratch?
Ooh, well, probably bread. I mean, I love bread. Baking bread is just like, it's like this blank canvas for just trying so many new flavors and new techniques and stuff. So I really do love that. But I love cookies so much. And I really think that like you can tell the difference between a homemade cookie or brownie, either one, and a store-bought. And so I will like not buy cookies from the store. I just don't do that. I need to make them at home. And I don't know, it's just, you can get the chewiness to be just perfect, and all the other, I don't know, I just love a classic chocolate chip cookie, and I want to make them myself. So there you go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Morning coffee or evening tea?
Oh, morning coffee, 100%. Yep.
Okay.
I'm very particular about my morning coffee, and I do love evening tea as well. But I like, the day is not right if I have one mug that I drink my morning coffee out of, one and only, and it has to be. I'm like very particular about it. I don't know. I really enjoy it in my little mug, and so I make it the same every single day, and that's my thing. So
awesome. If you could have one superpower as a mom, what would it be?
oh my goodness, I'm gonna be torn between being well rested and well, no, I'm not going to be torn. That's the one. Yep. It's just going to be to be more well rested, like to not need to sleep. That would just be great, to just feel fresh all the time, and be able to be at 100%. That would be so great. I would just love that.
That's
that
awesome.
Probably is relatable for a lot of moms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, if you could have dinner with one woman from the Bible, who would it be?
One woman. Oh man. My gut probably says Esther, but I think there were also some women from the New Testament. That would be a close second. But I'll say Esther, because what an insane time to be around, and just to see all of the. I think it'd be really interesting to see what royal life kind of looked like back then. We probably have like an image in our mind from movies or TV, but it would be very interesting to see what it actually looked like inside the king's palace at that time and stuff. And she just, I'm sure a lot of people would answer this way because she's just so interesting. Like you learn quite a lot about her, but she's also only around for that one book. And so, I don't know, what more could we learn from her from just talking to her and seeing how she was. I think that would be really fun. So.
Is there anything that you would like to leave the listeners with before we end?
I'll just say, just remember that the Lord is putting so many good things right in front of you every single day, and to just thank Him for those things, and to remember that they are valuable, even when they don't feel valuable, like mundane house chores and stuff like that. It's just so easy to feel like, especially when you're at home with kids, it's easy to get caught up in, things feeling sort of monotonous or taxing or whatever. But even those little things are doing something for the kingdom. So that's what I would leave other moms with.
So Aleena, tell me a little bit about your business.
Yes. So I have it's called a cottage food business because I make everything at home. So that's just the kind of law that it falls under is called cottage food law. But I make primarily sourdough bread. I've also made several other things, but right now sourdough is like such a trend. So I've just kind of leaned into that. It's very fun to make. So I take orders online and just make everything to order, and people pick up from my house, or sometimes I deliver it if they live close by. But I do all kinds of flavors, and right now it's mostly just like loaves of bread that I slice up, and it's just like a big loaf of bread. But I'm trying to do like pizza crusts and some other, cinnamon rolls are another big one. But anyway, yeah, I'm just trying to grow that kind of organically in our neighborhood. And it's been so fun because it's just a way to kind of stretch my, my non-parenting muscles, like try to do something that isn't just like centered around, kid crafts and all that stuff. Like it's just kind of a fun hobby for me, but it also keeps me like at home and available for my kids. So it's been a really fun thing to kind of explore.
And you also bake chocolate chip cookies.
And that too. I guess I usually just end up baking those for our family. I don't sell some. Yeah.
Awesome. And tell me, I think you also do bitters for
yes.
for drinks.
So I actually, yes, bitters. I have, for a couple of years I made my own bitters, which is like the thing that you add it to your old fashioned or you can add it to like any drink, but most commonly people would remember it like in an old fashioned. And those are really fun to make. And it was kind of our first little adventure into home food businesses. But I've found that the number of ingredients I have to keep on hand and like trying to market those and be able to actually sell them, it just takes a lot more than trying to sell bread. A lot more people are more willing to just buy a loaf of bread on any day than a bottle of bitters. So I still have all of that stuff, and we make them at home just for our own use, which is kind of fun, but I'm not selling those quite as much these days. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Where would one order the bread?
I do have a website, which is in the description. And then I have an Instagram that I'm trying to be a little more active on. It's not, it's not my first thought is to like go post on Instagram. So I have to kind of remember to do that. But I do try to keep things updated there. So you can order on the website and just find me on Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you. Wow, what an incredible conversation. Aleena, thank you so much for sharing your story and wisdom with us today. I know our listeners are going to be so encouraged by this. Until next time, keep walking in faith and living with joy.
Thank you.